Like having chalk on. Hey, I'm Jim, and today we'll be going through the technique circuit at Rise, and this month's technique circuit is slab climbing. So I'll be pointing out a few tips and tricks to help get you up the boulders that we set yesterday. Slab climbing tends to be, is on low angle walls, either vertical or tilting backwards. And because of this, because it's not so steep, there's more of a reliance on your legs, and it's a lot about balance and technique and being precise with your feet. One thing that's really important to think about with balance is kind of where your center of mass is. So if we're just stood kind of naturally on the floor, generally a good marker is where your belly button is. And to be in balance, you want your center of mass to be over your feet. So if both your feet are in a wide stance, you're in the middle. If you stand on one leg, you have to shift that center over your leg. And as we're climbing on the slabs, we want to be like shifting this and really thinking about getting into those balance points. And sometimes you can move slowly into a balance point if you have hand holds to help you, but sometimes there's not holds and we have to move fast from one stable position into another one. So on this pink one, for example, you have to get stood up on this foot, and because of the way the handholds are, it's in an awkward position to go slow onto it. So you have to quickly move into that last position. So the start position is like this, and the end position that we want to get in is stood up here with our center of mass over our foot so that we're in balance. And the easiest way to do that is to go as fast as you can to that end position. So straight to the balance point. Another thing to consider with your center of mass is that when you move a limb out to the side, it will change. So if I stand on one leg and then put my leg out, you can see I lose balance and fall to the right because my center of mass will have shifted from here to somewhere over here. And on a slab, if we want to slow a move down and be really precise, say you need to do a step out to the side, you can counteract that falling movement by using other limbs as like a counterweight. So if I need to put my foot out to the right but not fall over, putting your arm out to the left gives you more balance. And on this pink one, there's a tricky move to slide your foot down onto this foothold, and you've not got much to hold you on the wall, and you need to be really slow and precise. So actually keeping your arms over on the left allows you to like counteract the weight of your leg, and you can slowly slide and place it onto that hold. Another thing to think about when slab climbing is keeping close to the wall. So if you're leaning far out, it's easy for you to lose balance and fall backwards. And you can lose balance in quite a lot of ways when you're climbing on a slab. So your shoulders are quite wide. So if you turn yourself side onto the wall, like this, or you put your arm up, it can be easy to knock your weight off balance and send you off. And the same with your head. Your head is really heavy part of your body, so moving your head far backwards can actually take you off the wall. So when you're climbing on slabs, it's good to try and stay chest parallel to the wall and also hips close to the wall as well, and keep as close to the wall itself so that you get as much weight through the feet as possible. On smaller holds, it's harder to stay close to the wall because they are closer to the wall as well. But on a bigger hold like this, you actually have a little bit of room to kind of pick where you want to stand on it to give yourself more balance. So you could stand, the further out from the wall you stand on the hold will give you more of a lever point to be able to tip in. So if I was standing out here and leaning on the wall, I'm like sturdy, I'm not going anywhere. Whereas this, you've got a little bit more chance to lean back. So with these feet, even though it's quite scary because it feels like there's more chance of them to slip, but the further out you stand on the hold, the more room you'll have to lean in and not like topple off. Because of the low angle on slabs, you also get a lot worse holds because because of the angle, you're able to hold smaller things. So the root setters will often put worse holds in, and maybe holds that you don't find on other parts of the wall just because they won't work. So you might be pressing just with your thumbs, or there might be really small undercuts and side pulls, and you really have to trust your feet well and weight your feet correctly to make these holds work. On the start of this purple, the foot holds are quite good, and it means that the hand holds can be really, really poor, but you can just about make them work if you use the feet in the correct way. So these two thumb catches are really, really bad, but if you keep your center of mass as close to the wall as possible and over your feet, you can kind of find a balance point which allows you to get in position and enough to move your hand and then move into the next position. Another thing to really consider with slab climbing is what shoes you're wearing. So there can be quite a lot of variety of the footholds that you're standing on. You could be on big smeary feet like this, which you want a lot of surface area on, or you could be on small jibs like this, where you want something quite stiff and supporting for the foot. So, and the shoes work best for their own like unique kind of things. So on the big kind of smeary foothold, you want something quite soft so that your shoe can merge to the shape of the hold and you have more surface contact with the hold, so it's less likely to rip. Whereas something stiffer and that's not going to bend as much, you're mostly just going to stay on the toe and it's harder to get as much contact with the hold. And kind of it's flipped on the smaller holds, so if I was standing on a really small chip like this in a really soft shoe, you can actually it's more likely for the shoe to roll off, whereas something stiffer, you get a lot more support and it feels a lot nicer when you're standing on the really small holds. Footwork is such an important part of slab climbing, and you have to train it and improve it just like you would strength or your other physical kind of attributes. So what I really like to do is just sort of, when I'm warming up, is just feel around, spend some time. You could be on any boulder, you could be on rainbow, but just climb up a boulder and try and find positions where you can take your hands off, find positions where you can balance, experiment with how much you can drop your heels, just really feel around and play with it, make it playful. So say I was warming up on here and, for slab climbing on the slopey holds, to get as much friction as possible, you don't want to be up on your toes. You don't want to be up on your toes like this. You want your heels to be dropped down so that you'll have as much rubber in contact with the hold as possible. So what I'm doing when I warm up is just sort of do some little calf bounces and just really kind of feel around the holds, try and find some balance places, just grab a few holds around, or a few spots between holds as well, and just start feeling it out. And through doing that, you really develop trust in your feet and just feel more confident standing on bad holds. Often when you're slab climbing, the angle of your ankle and your heel is really important. So when you're on slopier holds, you want to drop your heels so that your foot is in as much contact with the hold as possible. And when you're on smaller, little foot chips or jibs, you kind of want to be up on your toes so that you can reach higher and also put more force down through them. So yeah, on a big sloper like this, I would be, rather than being up on my toes like that, where you have a really small amount of rubber in contact with the hold, you want your ankle to be as low as possible so that there's as much contact with the hold. On smaller footholds or jibs and chips, if you drop your heel too much, it can just pick off the hold. So you want to have more of a active sort of stance on those, or even be up on your toes a little bit so that you're driving force down through them. So if I were to drop my heel on this, you have the opportunity for it to pick. So you want it to be somewhat, horizontal, calf muscle is flexed and engaged, and you're putting force through them downwards. For the technique circuit, we have 8 climbs of increasing difficulty. We've not put the grades on them, they just get progressively more tricky, but they also, each one's require different skills. So, try all of them because you'll be able to take away something from all of them. And I think with this circuit on the slab, it's not like the steep where physically you might not be able to do some of the harder ones if you haven't been climbing that long. There's a lot you can learn from just playing around, even if you're like using handholds but trying to do the boulder with the set feet. There's like lots that you can take away from it. And we've also added some helping holds on some of the climbs. These are just have a purple box around them, and if you use those holds on the climb, it will make it a little bit easier. Thanks for watching. Hopefully there were some useful tips, or you learned something that you hadn't heard of before. Come down to Rise and check them out and let us know how you get on.